All right. So, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is, I'll name this segment later. GTG spits that grease, etc., etc. I'm your host. Let's get into it. So, if the title hasn't already given me away yet, we're going to speak on, briefly, DSP speaking on the Mike Clum documentary and how he dodged the bullet. And actually he even goes a little bit further than that. In that, if he had done the Mike Clum documentary, he doesn't think his path would have led him to PPP, or Triple P as I like to call him, and Kino Casino. So he feels like he was somehow going to be deprived doing this documentary, which was supposed to try to show him in a different light than what people like myself display him. He doesn't think that was really worthwhile in the end. He thinks what he's getting from Kino Casino was by far the better gamble. On top of that, he also questions whether Mike Clum was setting him up or not. And he doesn't like the association with Boogie and EDP 445. You know, he don't like that association of him being sandwiched up with them because he feels that he's better than them, when he's really not. He's a piece of trash, just like the both of them, to be honest. So anyway, one thing at a time. So, first, DSP feeling like he would be, if he had done the documentary, it wouldn't have led him to his final destination, which is PPP and DSP's gaming soulmate, Andy Worski. That by far was probably the most pathetic thing that I've heard, or at least as of late, at least this year anyway, being that he really feels like if he had done the documentary, he wouldn't have had an opportunity to somehow circle the drain around Kino Casino. And his reasoning is really, really peculiar, to be honest with you. I'm kind of perplexed by why he would choose this narrative. He says that if I had done the documentary with Mike Clum, I wouldn't have been able to give PPP and Andy my undivided attention. I'm paraphrasing. He's saying that by not doing the documentary, it gave Kino Casino exclusivity, all access to him in a way that was helpful and benefit to him to giving him his second chance on the internet. Now, the first thing you would think of if you're not a fucking dent is you couldn't multitask. You couldn't work on the documentary with Mike Clum a couple days and then still be able to do stuff with PPP and Andy. You really think that you have to be a cancer on the ass of one or the other? You can't do both? You didn't think that after you did the documentary with Mike Clum, then you could have gone over there and sucked at the teat of fucking PPP? Like, his logic doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it's DSP grasping for straws. Obviously, they're phantom snorts that he's trying to gather up, and it really kind of shows you how mentally ill he is. It shows that he doesn't understand how any person can do multiple things at once, right? He literally is the definition of someone who can't walk and chew gum at the same time. It requires so much cognitive thought that he's just not capable of doing it. He can't work with two separate people at once. He needs to just be able to focus on one thing. The irony of that all is, while he was sitting there being courted by Mike Clum, allegedly, there was two other groups of people who were trying to do something with him as well. So he was in talks with all three of these people. PPP and Andy weren't even in the picture yet. He was talking to all three of these people. Decided to drop the other two to do the Mike Clum documentary. Ends up getting out of that because I honestly think he got scared off. I think Mike must have said something that may have been closely associated with Keem or something along the lines that scared him. He decides to go ahead and bring, or he thought it was a gay op. He decides to bring Kat out and unveil her and all of her grace, I guess, and whatnot. Exploited that for a couple of times and then gave up. Then went on a drought for a bit and then ends up linking up with Kino Casino. He makes it seem like this was all preordained. This was all predestined for him to meet up with Kino Casino, for them to link up, if you will. And the Mike Clum documentary was just a worthy sacrifice. It's just something that had to be done for the business, dude. Now, let's jump over to the exclusivity of we've kind of already tapped on that. Let's jump over to the negative aspects of doing the documentary with Mike Clum. He doesn't want to be associated with Boogie. He's nothing like him, and even though he says that, hey, the documentaries between myself and Boogie will fundamentally be different and people will be able to see that, I still don't want to be associated with him. Then he brings up, oh, well, then I hear that when he was with Mike Clum at the time and they were talking this all over, he said Mike was working on multiple documentaries, right? But he said Mike never brought up the situation with EDP. He never said that he was doing a documentary on it. So he feels that even though the EDP documentary and the Boogie documentary have nothing to do with him, the fact that he feels, in his own words, he's going to be sandwiched in between both of those is going to make him look bad by design, And he feels that it's going to, the perspective, the optics of it all is going to make him look fundamentally bad. And he thinks that it's being done on purpose. Mike Clum is purposely trying to do this, trying to group him up with the likes of these people. Well, truth be told, DSP, if you could lie about cancer, you would. You lied about your parents being sick and dying, and that's why you and Kat had to go out there to Connecticut to get married. That's strike number one against you. And that's just one of the many things I can hit you with when it pertains to Boogie. Let's go ahead and jump over to EDP, that 445, Mr. Cupcake himself. Don't you defend cupcake eaters? You defend pedophiles. So what makes you what makes you really any different from EDP? I mean, if you could justify Derek or Derich, his behavior, then what problem do you have with EDP? I'm just asking. It's as far as I'm concerned, it's all the same shit. You don't think, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Derek tried to pick up on a child and shit. He comes across like the little sicko that might have gone and to any type of school playground or whatever, or some type of park, and may try to talk to kids. He may have even tried to walk any of them home. Who knows if he's trying to build up the confidence. You know, I don't even want to put that energy out there. Let me stop. Let me honestly stop. I don't even want to put that energy out there and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? He should be up against the wall anyway. But the point being is that you didn't have a problem defending one pedophile, but you got a problem with your documentary being preceding the documentary of another pedo. Seems, I don't know, seems strange to me. So there's that. He doesn't like the optics of that situation and what that may or may not have happened. And when questioned or when pushed on, what brings you to this conclusion that you skipping the Mike Clum documentary was a bad move, when theoretically, as I said earlier on, you could have done the Mike Clum documentary and the Kino Casino saga or arc, and Mike Clum could have had exclusive access to your resurrection, if you will. And all of that could have been documented. You don't see the value in that. You don't see the importance in that. And he says no. He says it would have been a hindrance. He said that the priority was to let PPP and Andy know that he's available whenever they want him, and he would be there. Now, this is the same guy who has this autistic, rigorous schedule that he can't break for no one. Won't even break it for his own wife, for his own family. But he'll break it for these two guys over here. He says that that wouldn't be possible. And truth be told, the payoff of doing the Mike Clum documentary, even if it is side by side with the Kino Casino thing, it just doesn't really weigh out. It's just not possible. He had to make a choice, and this was the best choice for him. End of story. I gotta tell you, it only harkens back to DSP and how short-sighted he is. It just goes to show how little he understands of the world and how to operate within it. It's what happens, ladies and gentlemen, when we let people fall through the cracks. When we let people just get by. You know what I'm saying? You get situations like this. Now, granted, DSP's failure doesn't hurt any of us in the grand scheme of things. It's a point and laugh type of situation. You can dissect it. You can even A-log it if you feel the need to. But it doesn't really hurt any of us in the grand scheme of things. It's when DSP becomes a belligerent asshole and says that people are trying to hinder him when, truth be told, he put himself into that situation, is when the cavalry ends up coming in full force. It's when the Mongol hordes, if you will, of Goutopia comes out and has to lay shit down. But it really speaks volumes, and it speaks back, or harkens back, to Darksydephil being his greatest detractor. He is by far, always has been, always will be, his greatest hindrance. There will never, ever be another person who will have the impact on Darksydephil's life, DSP, Darksydephil, Phil Burnell, Dark Geppetto. There'll never be someone who will be a greater deficit to him than him. And that's not really something that anybody can argue. I've seen some people try to. And, you know, you got to give them credit for giving the old college try. But truth be told, it just doesn't compute. It'll never add up. And that's why I like to say, hence the reason why I coined this, that give DSP enough rope and he'll hang himself. And he does it every single time. Just because he goes ahead and puts the blame on other people doesn't mean that him and that rope aren't destined in the end. You know what I'm saying? They're meant to go together. So there's no fighting that. There's no getting around that. He built the gallows. He theoretically constructed the rope. He put the rope up there, and he's going to put his neck through it willingly, because he only thinks about benefiting in the short term and never in the long term. There's never a real plan. It's just, okay, get me from point A to point B. I'm at point B. I'm successful. I don't need to worry about anything else. If it all farts apart, sorry. If it all falls apart, just go back to point A and just wait for the next opportunity. He's like a gouty Venus flytrap in that kind of way. He's so codependent on people taking an interest in him and then being able to move off that, than going out there or trying to put himself out there to try to get other people's attention, try to give them a reason to invest in it, which is ironic in a lot of ways. But then again, maybe I'm contradicting myself, because DSP has tried to court people to allow him to participate in their content, to be able to piggyback off of their platform, to leech or parasite off of them, if you will. And no one ever seems to fall for it. And that's for good reason, to be honest with you. He's a worthless, useless, ungrateful, insincere, inconsiderate piece of garbage. And it doesn't take long to see that, whether you're watching the content or if you're interacting with him directly. It's not hard to perceive that. So now you're just being nice to a piece of shit just for that piece of shit to get out of your fucking face. And so with that, and upon that, it really tells the tale on why he's at where he's at. And on top of his paranoia, let me go to my final point. His paranoia for Mike Clum, saying that, hey, he said he was going to do all these documentaries and none of them have come out. Documentaries don't come out overnight, Phil. He was going to need, like you said, you couldn't participate in the documentary with Mike Clum and do the Kino Casino shit because one or the other needed exclusive access to you. So that means he would have had to be with you for weeks, if not months. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. And then he has to go through and edit shit out. Then he wanted to do interviews with other people. That's a lot of time and a lot of effort. It's a lot of work. That's a lot of expenses. Shit that you know very little about. So of course that was going to be a problem. And then he told you that he was working on multiple documentaries with multiple interesting people. So there is no time frame for him to get the final product out there. He's already on the move and whatnot, and he has all the materials and he has the manpower to jump from one subject to another, then why not? I kind of understand it. Now granted, he has to be careful because burnout is a thing. But while he's out there and while he's motivated, why not catch him in traffic? So pretty much all of DSP's complaints can be explained away, because of course they can. And I should have the segment in particular that will follow this, and it'll be its own separate video in itself, and we'll go through it and you'll see what I'm talking about. But every day that Darksydephil, DSP, Phil Burnell draws breath, Dark Geppetto draws breath, he really is living up to that 220 to that 220 classification. He's not doing too much to fight against it. I got to tell you. I don't know if you can. I understand that some people think it's a behavioral thing, and so on and so forth. I get it. Everybody has their theories, which is good because it inspires conversation. It's really hard to explain to the normal person why or how or make sense of what it is that DSP thinks and how it makes sense to him. His detachment from reality speaks volumes, to be honest. And granted, he's greedy as shit too. So let's not overstate the obvious. With PvP and Andy, he has a chance of actually making some real money out of this. Whereas with the Mike Clum documentary, it's really just to fix his image and to boost his ego. An ego that's been bruised incredibly. And truth be told, may not even really be worth saving. So I guess in DSP's world, it is a bit of a catch-22. Is it worthwhile? I doubt it. But, we all value stuff in our own ways, right? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening in. I very much appreciate it. Catch you guys for the next one of these, whenever that may be, hopefully sooner than later. This has been, I'll name this segment later, GTG Spits That Grease, so on and so forth. And, like I said, I'm open to any feedback and what's your thoughts on it, because that's how this works, right? And whatnot, perspective is important, because if not, and it's all just an echo chamber, and you end up like Phil, you end up like Wings, you end up like Boogie, you end up like Keem, you end up like Review Tech USA, theoretically. Keem might be the most open-minded out of all of them, but let's be honest, he's just as closed-minded as the rest of them. History's proven that. But, no need for me to be sending out strays and shit like that. If I want to point and be precise, I'll target him when I'm ready. In any case, thank you guys very much, and I'll catch you guys for the next one. Take care of yourselves, people. Later.